Welcome to the CAD 2 Week 10 Advanced Modeling Tools tutorial. So this week we're going to create two parts. The first part is this formed cover, and this formed cover is going to be made using the loft command. Now the loft command works by taking multiple profiles and filling in material in between them. Now when you make a loft in SolidWorks, you have to show all the profiles needed to make the loft in the drawing. So here we can see this section view in the center shows us the middle profile, and you'll notice the dimensions all go to the outer side with a wall thickness called out because we're going to shell this at the end. And then we can see the end profile here. Pair that with the note that the part's symmetrical about the section line, and we need two of this profile and one of this profile in order to create the loft. So let's start with this part. Now the part is in inches, so we are going to open a new model file in our English template. Okay. Now that our part is open, we have to decide where to place the origin. I'm going to place the origin in the bottom center of the part, so I'm actually going to start with drawing my middle profile. Now, loft is a command that's a little unique compared to what we have done so far, because loft is the first command we're using that requires us to create multiple sketches before we have a solid body. Now, to draw this profile, I'm going to start with a mid-plane line from the origin, going horizontally. Then I'm going to go up. I'm going to leave these corners sharp, make a arc, and leave the corners sharp. Now, this arc center needs to be directly above my origin, and the center needs to be in line with the edges to the left and right. That also keeps these left and right edges in line with each other. If those don't come in when you do the arc, it means you miss the automatic relations, and you'll have to add them manually. Now for some dimensions. The overall width at the base is 6 inches. The height of the side is 750, and the outside radius is 1.5. Now there are some corner radiuses here that are 0.375. So I'm going to add those with the Sketch Fillet tool. Here and here. Perfect. That completes my outer profile. Or sorry, that completes my center profile. Okay, profile 1's done. Now, we need the outer profiles 3 inches before and 3 inches after this. And this was drawn on our front plane. So in order to draw these profiles, I need to create reference planes offset 3 inches from my front plane. Now, to create planes, we're going to use the reference geometry tool. If you're in simplified view, you may have to look this up instead, or turn off simplified view. So I'm going to click reference geometry and select plane. This will allow me to create a new plane. Now, I've selected the front plane already, which is enough to fully define it, so long as I give it a distance to offset it. In this case, that's going to be 3 inches. Now, that plane offset 3 inches forward, but I also need one 3 inches backward. So I'll go to Reference Geometry, and Plane again. This time it didn't already have the front plane selected, so to click it, I'll reveal my feature tree by clicking this little arrow and select front plane. It went right to 3 inches, but I need to flip the offset and go backwards. Okay, plane 1 and plane 2. Now the more we create custom geometry, the better it is to rename these. So I'm just going to double click on this gently and rename this forward plane and backward plane, since my starting point is already the front plane. Okay, that'll make it a little bit easier to distinguish them. Now I'm going to sketch on the forward plane, and I'm going to draw the smaller profile. I'll again start with a midpoint line, go up, leave it as a sharp corner, create an arc, try to approximately center it, and then finish off the shape. I'll add the same relation, taking that point in the origin, making them vertical. The height this time is only 375, while the radius is 1. And the width at the base is 5. As for my corner fillets, they are 250 here. There and there. Okay. I've now created the second of my profiles in the forward position. Now I need a copy of this in the back plane as well. So to create that copy, I'm going to start a sketch on the back plane, and then from my feature tree, I'm going to select Sketch 2, which will highlight the entire sketch. With it selected, I'm going to click Convert Entities, which will trace the entire sketch into the back plane. With that, that sketch is complete, and I can exit. Now, my 3 sketches are in place, but before I create the loft, I like to turn off the visibility of my extra planes by right-clicking on them and selecting Hide. Makes things a little bit easier to see. Okay, with our 3 profiles set, we are ready to use the loft command. So we're going to go to Features and go Lofted Boss Base. Now, it wants us to pick all the profiles needed to create the loft. So, the other thing that it wants you to pick that it doesn't tell you is it wants you to try and pick approximately the same point on all 3. It's going to guide the loft along your selected points. Another thing is we want to pick points where there's already going to be a visible edge of the part, because the points we select are always going to generate a visible edge. So we want to hide that in an edge that's already going to be a visible edge. Meaning, I'm going to select this point here. And you can see I get these little green indicators marking that that's where the points are going. Now, the reason we have to pick the points carefully is if you pick a different point, it tries to match the curvature to that selected point, and you can see that that definitely doesn't look correct. It also generates an edge regardless of where you select it. So if I were to move all 3 of these over, it will generate the correct geometry, but it'll put an edge on the part here, but not on this side. That's why we like to try and put this where there's already going to be a visible edge, so we don't end up with any extra visual features on the part. That's selected, I'll hit OK, and there is our loft. Now, we need to add one more feature and then set our material. The final feature is going to be a shell, which as a refresher just hollows out the part and cuts all the way through whatever surface you select here. Our wall thickness is 0.125, and the surface we're going to cut all the way through is the base. I'm going to select that and hit OK, and there is my shelled feature. Last but not least, the material is PPE. So let's go into Material, and we'll just search for PPE, and there it is. We'll click that and apply. Go to our isometric view, and this part is complete. Now, moving on to part 2. Part 2 is using the sweep command. Specifically, we're going to use the shortcut version of the sweep command, which is circular profile sweep. Now, a sweep just takes an existing closed profile and extrudes it along the length of a path. However, with using the sweep command, circular profiles are so common that they actually added the option to automatically generate circular profiles for a sweep. So, all we need to draw is the center line that guides our feature, the path it's going to follow. Then we'll have to create these tabs on the end, but that's step 2. So, this is also an inch part, so we'll make a new part, English inches. We'll once again sketch on our front plane. And while it might be center lines in the drawing, since it's the path our sweep command's going to follow, it needs to be regular line entities. So we're essentially making a sideways S. Starting from the bottom left part of our path, I'll draw a line going straight up, leave and come back to enter the arc command, and make a 180 arc here. I'll do it again, make a 180 arc going the other way, and then go straight up. You should end up with verticals and 3 tangents. Additionally, these came in with these 2 center points in line with each other. If you didn't get that, you'll again have to add it manually to make sure. Okay. Now, the easy part, dimensioning it. This length is 4 inches. This arm is also 4. The length between the 2 arms is 8. The radius of both of these is 2 inches. And there we go, fully defined. That was relatively simple. This is all we need to actually create our sweep. Now, I'm going to exit Sketch, go to Features, and select Sweep. If I was using something other than a circular profile, I would have also had to have drawn the profile connected to this endpoint so that it would follow it. But because we're using circular profile, I can select this option with just my path. Now, this value here is going to be the diameter of our extrusion. For the diameter of our extrusion, we're going to want to do the outside diameter. Now, according to our drawing, the inside diameter is 1.5, the outside diameter is 1.75, giving us an 1/8 inch wall thickness on both sides. So we'll set this to 1.75, and there is our tube, although at the moment it is solid. We can use thin feature over here, which is a checkbox, to actually make it hollow as well. For here, we'll just place our wall thickness, and that will generate the tube for us. Now, one thing to be careful of is which direction the thin feature is going. When I click flip direction, this one is larger, that is smaller. Since I started with my outside diameter, I need the thin feature offset to go smaller, not larger. Once you've created it, it's a good idea to double check and confirm that your geometry is correct. To do that, we'll simply go to Evaluate, Measure, and measure this outside diameter. That is 1.75, that's what it should be. If you flipped it the wrong way, this will come in at 2 inches. Okay, that actually finishes the entirety of the pipe. We just need to add the mounting flanges on the end. So, for the flanges, I will start a sketch, and I will sketch on the end face. Now, there's multiple ways to do this. I'm going to show 2 different techniques so that you have both options available to you. The first technique is using the slot command and selected contours. So I'll do a center point straight slot from the midpoint, and I'll do one there, and one horizontally. Now slots are a full entity, so if I click inside, hold Control and select another one, I can actually make both slots equal. Now the width or length of the center of the slot is the diameter shown on the blueprint. Now on the blueprint it's listed as a radius of 1.25, so to get diameter we'll multiply that by 2. The radius on the end of the slot is 0.5, and we have 4 5/15 holes in the endpoints of the slots. So we'll draw those in, make them equal, and then dimension them. So draw them in, hold Control to multi-select, make them all equal, and then smart dimension them to 0.515. Okay. Now with this done, we can actually go to Extrude, and these extrude to a thickness of 0.125. And to make this work, we're going to use selected contours and just pick the sections of this sketch that we want to use. As you can see, you have to pick within the section, not pick the profile, or else it won't work. And then we have to make sure that we're extruding up into the part, not down away from it. So that is one method to create the tabs on the end. We have an identical set of tabs on the other side, and we'll create those using another technique. Now, over here, the other technique is to simply draw one tab properly and then pattern it around. So to do that, I like to start by creating a center line. Then we'll take the outer edge and convert it so we can trace it. And using the line tool, I will draw my tab directly. Now I need to take the center of that arc I drew and pin it to that point on my center line. And if it doesn't let you click and drag it, what we'll do is we'll select the two and we'll make them coincident. There we go. Now we can trim the extra from here and we have a proper tab. Now I'll draw the circle in the middle and then dimension this thing. So again, distance here is going to be the radius of the pattern. That is the 1.25. Radius here is 0.5. And diameter here is 515. Now, you could pattern this here as a sketch, or you could pattern it as a feature. I'm going to pattern it as a sketch just to demonstrate a known issue with sketch pattern. So parameters is what you're going to rotate about. That's going to be that point. We are going to have equal spacing 4, and for entities to pattern, we're going to take that profile and the hole in the center. Now, when I hit OK, this actually locked it into place and worked. However, what happens sometimes is it'll generate the pattern, but it'll leave a point where you selected unconnected to the model, and therefore all of your pattern copies will end up coming in underdefined. If that happens, to fix it, you need to simply drag the profile away partially and then repin that center point. Now that's complete. We can go Features, Extrude, and in this case we don't need to use selected contours. We just need to flip direction and pick OK. Now you might be wondering, why didn't we just trim the slot command down here to make the same result? Unfortunately, you can't trim a slot entity. If you do, it loses all form and all relations, and you'd have to go back in and manually add all the verticals and all the tangents you need. It's much easier just to leave it whole and use selected contours. Those are the two ways to create those tabs, though. As for this part's material is gray cast iron, so we'll set that material. I spelled gray wrong. There it is. Drop this into an isometric view and call it good. Now for this week, we are only submitting the models. If you want extra credit, you can create drawings of that, but there's going to be no video tutorial for that, just for the actual model creation. So that concludes the Week 10 Advanced Modeling Techniques tutorial.